This message is for you if and when you find yourself overcomplicating your expression or creativity because you think it has to be in a certain form for it to be valuable. And yes, of course, as always, I'm talking to myself as I'm talking to you, but I wanted to really anchor this point in, especially here in this podcast, which I know I've actually talked about, because this podcast in itself is an experiment and a practice for me to just basically live stream of consciousness, share my thoughts on a particular topic or message, just as I would if I was talking to you as a client or a friend in Voxer. And why I'm doing that is because as much as I love speaking as my primary form of communicating and messaging and reaching people that could potentially be amazing to collaborate with, work with, and just to know in life in general, I added so many obstacles to it when I made it like I have to sit down in a carpeted closet and then room. I started my Naptime Empires podcast in my closet in white because it was carpeted and small, but big enough for me to sit in, right? And so I was creating these obstacles and these rules that in order for it to be valuable, it needed to sound a certain way. And then I added my intro. And trust me, I actually love my intro. If you've never listened to the Naptime Empires podcast, I highly recommend you go find it in your favorite podcast player, because the inspired idea of having my son Bryson, who was only 4 or 5 at the time, record the intro is still one of my favorite things. It's like an audio scrapbook of his voice, which has changed so much in the several years since. Nonetheless, I didn't need an intro. I didn't need to have music. I didn't need to have crystal clear audio with my Blue Yeti microphone and pop filter perfectly propped on a book or on a book or a basket or a box or whatever in the closet for the messages to be valuable. Don't get me wrong. I love and appreciate crystal clear audio. I love and appreciate creative production and blah, blah, blah. However, it's not necessary. It's not. So I'm sharing this because over the weekend, I got feedback through the private pod comment box, the link in the show notes description here. And you know who you are. Thank you so much. I've already thanked you personally, but I just want to read this to you as a permission slip and kind of a verbal visualization for you to imagine whenever you follow your inspired format, whatever it is for you. Maybe it's writing, maybe it's speaking, maybe it's drawing, maybe it's composing music, whatever it is. If you follow your own creative path of least resistance, absolutely, some people aren't going to get it. It's not going to resonate and they will just tune out. But some people are going to resonate so purely with it because that is exactly what they are looking for on their journey. Like that's the nugget. You actually modeling that this can be a thing is value in itself, even if the content wasn't resonant. You know what I mean? Like the context of me sharing these messages with you in Voxer style audio note format can be valuable, even if somebody didn't understand or get it and they're like, this is a waste of time, this conversation or whatever. But thanks for the inspiration to know that I can actually just record stuff without editing it and it can be valuable. Okay, so I'm reading this to you so that you can imagine what this feedback would feel like coming from someone outside of your head. We can also, in another conversation, talk about the criticism from outside your head, because I'm all about delegating both at this point. Okay, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm enjoying listening to you so much, not least because there's no music, no intro, outro. It's just raw and simple, and it feels really quiet and like a normal chat. I find it a really comforting podcast because of that, and because you get me thinking about things, which I love. I also love how you just launch in, and I love the topics and the way you talk so articulately and clearly about nuances and reframes. Side note, I think about how much I ramble as well. So both sides, because yes, in some ways I'm being articulate and clear. In other ways, I am literally being fuzzy and all over the place. 2 favorites are reminders for when ish feels out of control and the best biz model for you. But I love them all. It all just feels very real and simple, and also helpful and meaningful with little thought nuggets. Just made that up. Feels right. It's the kind of podcast I'd like to make if I was going to do one. It shows me what's possible beyond what everyone else is doing. And that's one of my favorite things as an online business owner / human. So thank you. Okay. So again, I'm saying this one, maybe if you haven't listened to those messages, maybe you want to go listen to them. Reminders for when ish feels out of control and the best biz model for you. But that's actually perfectly synchronistic to this message, which is letting go of our obsession with controlling things to get things, air quotes, right, and to know that at any point somebody's going to be like yes and somebody's going to be like no, and that's okay, because the goal and the point of our messaging is to draw in the right people and filter out the wrong people. And I hate to call them the wrong people, but they're not the best fit. They're not a mutually fulfilling fit for whatever your services and offerings or life relationships. You know what I mean? Okay. So filtration, you following your inspiration is satisfying, fulfilling filtration. And that's what I wanted to say. So if you're overcomplicating things and you know that you have one place where you love to go and create and it comes very naturally to you, whether that's writing on paper and taking a picture of it and posting it to Instagram, or doodling on an iPad, which I would love to do more of now that I have an Apple Pencil, because I've been dreaming of that for years because I love to doodle and write things on actual paper. Whether it's that, whether it's recording notes like this, whether it's creating Instagram stories, whether it's writing it in a Google Doc or a blog post or an email, go, and I say this in a course about copy too, follow your own path of least resistance when it comes to your expression. And then you can follow through and amplify it in other forms, but start with what's closest to the vest, like closest to your heart. This feels like the most natural form. The easiest way for me to get this message literally out of my head and into your earbuds is to just hit this little green button in this app for now. So that's what I'm doing. In years past, that has looked like creating a Facebook group that I called the Naptime Empires Playground, because I didn't like going into my Infusionsoft account at the time and having to do the whole hubbub of writing the emails and stuff. So I chose the Facebook group as kind of an in-between way for me to connect with people. But now, like I said, it's this audio. And then I know that I can always then go back out there into the bigger world, into the more public pool, and point people back to this channel, because I know that this is what's actually sustainable and enjoyable for me for now, knowing that that can change later too. So all that to say, I just wanted to highlight and underscore, add some asterisks here so that you can see, where am I overcomplicating it and telling myself lies that I need to do it a certain way just because somebody else does. And that's what air quotes professional podcasting would look like, for example. Or this is how, because literally people communicate in all kinds of ways. People send direct mail to my mailbox. I mean, people do phone calls, in-person networking. Like, what comes most naturally to you? And can you honor that and give it a chance to build momentum? And then if you're like at the starting point and you're looking to ramp up, but if you're actually already ramped up and you're feeling drained as F because it's just too much, then can you honor what actually comes most naturally and gets the most beautiful, fulfilling result for you, and let the rest of it go and trust the value of your own path of least creative resistance, ? Food for thought. Let me know what that stirs up for you by hitting the link to the private pod comment box. I look forward to your response. Okay, technically that was the end of the episode, but since you're still here, 1, I'd love to thank you for spending part of your day with me, and 2, I'd love to ask you if you would take 30 seconds, maybe 60, to leave a rating and review in your podcast app before you tap out today. If you've already done that, it's amazing. Please send me a screenshot so I can thank you personally, and know that sharing this episode with a friend has the same magical powers, and I deeply appreciate both. Also, in case you're listening to the end to see if I ever actually introduce myself, hi! My name is Nikki Elledge Brown. I'm the host and author of Naptime Empires and this here On Her Terms podcast. You can find me around the internet at Nikki Elledge Brown in most places, but what you may appreciate most is actually over at onherterms.com. It's what I call the insider library. It's where you can get inside scoop, first listen rights, email updates every time there's a new episode, and then special insider only bonus content. It's all over in our private feed. Okay, that's a wrap for real. I'll meet you in the next episode.